Hello everyone, it's Leah, and today we have a cosplay refresh. A few years ago, I made a very unsturdy version of Jinx from Arcane, as you see behind me right here. Well, this is the new version that I'm going to show you how to make today. Arcane is one of my favorite new shows, Jinx is one of my favorite characters, and I felt like I really needed to do this cosplay justice. My first time around, not so much. My second time around, much better, and I'm so excited to bring you along with me. So let's get into this cosplay refresh. So this is the cosplay as it stands now. It's a good start, but it can definitely use improvements. I feel like for making online content, for making TikTok videos, it's fine, it works. But if I wanted to wear this to a convention, I can definitely improve. Let's start with the shirt. I may start this shirt completely from scratch. I love the shape of it. I think that's really great, but it's not a very durable material. I don't think it will hold up long over time. So I'd like to check out some thrift stores to see if I can find another shirt that works better. But moving down to the bottom half of the shirt, assuming we don't get a brand new shirt, this is the place we're gonna focus on. First is hemming the actual shirt. I've just been folding over this top so that it is the length that I want it, which is where it was before. So I need to actually hem that and cut that so that it does sit here. Then with the belt, as I said, it is sewed in the back here. But right now it only has one grommet option in terms of tightness, and it's not tight enough, so it keeps falling down to where I don't want it. I really would like it to be flush here, so I'm gonna add some more grommets just to give me some more options. I chose to use silver buckles, even though Jinx's cosplay primarily uses gold. I had these and I didn't want to be wasteful, so I used what I had. So right now we're dealing with some mixed metals. We've got the gold on the shirt, we've got the silver on the buckles, and then down on this belt, we've got some chrome and some silver as well. I wanna play into that a little bit more using mixed metals. So when I am updating this belt here, the grommets that I choose to use are going to be different metal finishes. Moving to the sleeves here, these are so incredibly tight. They are cutting off my circulation. I need to take them off very soon. Same with the belt around the waist. These need more options in terms of how tight they're going to be. And then I'm going to add the mixed metal flare. We also have another strap and buckle on this arm. Same thing, adding more rivets, adding grommets, mixed metal finish to match everything else we've got going on. The pants I'm very happy with. I will recap how I made these pants. Then for the belt around my waist here. This is really all I've had. Not so much happening. It doesn't really sit well, but I like this belt. I think it's really cool. I think it fits this cosplay and it fits the style that I'm going for, but we need to add some to it. The Jinx costume has some more like leather straps running down, some bits of fabric. I am going to use this opportunity to make a little bag that matches this outfit. As a cosplayer going to conventions, you need a bag, and that's usually the one thing that is hard to match to a costume. So why not make a bag custom to this costume? I'm pretty excited for that. I've got some fun ideas for how that's going to work. I'm excited to share with you. That's pretty much it, though I might find some stuff along the way to add. And I think it's time to get started refreshing this cosplay. So in this video, we are going to tackle the pants, the belt, the armbands, and the shirt. So if there's anything specific that you're looking for, check the chapters down below, skip around the video, or hang tight and come on this entire journey with me, starting with the belt. So let's start with this custom bag that we're going to put on the belt. I found this scrap of fabric, which is actually a piece that I hemmed off of a blackout curtain. So it's extremely sturdy, the fabric doesn't fray very easily, and it's going to be great for making this bag. I folded it in half and just sort of eyeballed the size that I wanted it to be, and then I cut it with enough seam allowance to create a seam on the top of the other side like you see on the front piece here. I used my measuring tape just to make sure that it was even all across the bottom, 7.5 inches deep. And once I knew it was even, I trimmed the edges a little just to make it a bit straighter. Then once I felt like I had straight edges, I folded over that seam on the top and rolled the open hem underneath
Then I ironed that seam down. It's really nice working with fabrics that iron easily so you can create creases, making it way, way easier when you bring your fabric over to the sewing machine. So this right here is the stitch we are trying to emulate. Let's get to it. I think I did a pretty good job replicating that stitch. And now let's close off the seam up the sides of the bags. I mentioned that this fabric doesn't fray very easily, but I still want the open edges to be rolled underneath, as you see me doing here. I clipped the fabric down and I sewed it into place on both sides of the bag. I turned the bag right side out and I laid it back down onto the fabric so that I could cut a piece for the flap, which will keep the bag closed. I'm not going to show you how I sewed this together because it's essentially the exact same way that I sewed the rest of the bag. Then I cut some strips of fabric, which are going to be used for fabric loops, so that I can slide this on to the belt. You can see here I pinned them in half inside out. Then I used this safety pin, fed the safety pin through the fabric to turn it right side out. And then I used my hair straightener to iron down this strap. And then you could see here how I attached the flap to keep the bag closed and these belt loops. I attached them in a way so no ends were opened, and it all looks very nice and seamless and a great accessory to this cosplay. Now I have a place to put my phone, to put my wallet, to put anything that I buy. But we aren't finished yet. I wanted to add some adornments. You can see here I sewed on some buttons. These are just buttons for decoration. I'll show you later, but the way that this bag closes is with Velcro. So you can see here I put some clips onto these belt loops just so I know that the belt could still slide through, but because the belt loops are pretty long, I wanted to add some rivets of different metal finishes. You'll see me use a variety of different rivet tools here, but basically the first tool puts a hole through the fabric, then we put the rivets through the hole and hammer those down into place. And you could see here I used a chrome finish, a bronze finish, and a gold finish. And I also wanted to add some rivets of different metaling finishes near where the buttons are. And this is what the finished bag looks like. Very steampunk, very Jinx. Definitely looks like it fits on this cosplay and in this world. And as I said, here is the Velcro underneath the buttons and the way that we will keep this bag closed. Now I started going a little off book. I felt like the bag needed some more. So I marked with my chalk some places where I'm going to put grommets. Again, the first tool creates the hole in the fabric. Then you put the grommet through the hole, one piece on each side. And then the second tool hammers the grommet into place. So same thing down the side of this bag. I did the gold, the bronze, and the chrome finish. And then I wound this twine and this black ribbon through the grommets. Great little finishing detail for this bag. Now moving on to the belt, we weren't doing anything to the belt itself, but Jinx does have these long fabric straps hanging down. They're kind of like suspenders. I had made black straps, but I needed to make them a little bit longer. And this is a process I'm going to repeat a few times, specifically on the armbands, which we're going to work on next. But basically, I folded a piece of this black pleather in half, and I added a seam along either side of the black strap. So this will be used for the suspenders for the belt and for the straps on the armbands. The piece I'm showing you here, it's not terribly straight, but it's good enough. Just don't look too closely. And now I'm going to add rivets to these black straps to hold everything together. Same way we added rivets to the bag. This time we're only using gold rivets, and you could see it creates this loop which we can feed onto the belt. There's a bunch of places down these suspenders that I need to add rivets, so let's get to it. Also adding a rivet in the back of the suspenders in this crisscross design. And you could see here, I also added these silver loops to the straps just to extend them and make them a little bit longer because the original straps I made weren't long enough. And it's also adding that mixed metal finish, which I want to be a common theme throughout this cosplay. So I really love that little addition of those silver loops. And once I was finished adding the rivets to all the places where it was necessary on these straps, I of course had to add some of my own adornments. On the original Jinx Cosplay, she has these little arrow triangle things. So I created my own version of that with gold rivets, which you can see me making here. I basically created that arrow design using 3 rivets, and then I mirrored that and then added 6 more rivets where you see the clips now. And then I repeated this on the other side of the strap. And here is what we're looking at so far with the belt, the suspenders, and the bag. It's looking great. It feels very sturdy on. And here's what it looks like in the back with the pants. These pants I made a really long time ago, and this is a TikTok I made explaining it. I bought these white pants. I will link them and any other materials in the description. I dyed them purple using Rit fabric dye. Rit makes fabric dye for synthetic and non-synthetic materials, so just make sure you check what material you're working with. I also recommend doing this over the stove so that you can keep the water heated. And once the fabric was dyed purple, I cut the bottom in the zigzag pattern, and I saved the excess because I'm going to use that for the armbands later. And now for the armbands, here are all the pieces I'm starting out with. So we have 3 straps of the same size for one arm, 1 smaller for the other wrist, this scrap fabric from the bottom of the pants, and 2 black gloves. So first, let's work on the straps. I have this little piece here to tuck the excess strap through. Right now it's sewed into place, but I don't want it to be sewed in place like this, so I'm going to seam rip that. Then I'm going to seam rip the buckle off because I want to change a little bit about that. And then I am pulling out this grommet because we are going to change the grommet design. So the first thing we need to do, as you see here, I only have a seam on one side of the strap. So just as we did with the suspenders, we are going to add another seam to the other side of the strap. And after I sewed on that new seam, I also sewed the buckle back into place. And now for the grommets. Pretty much in the same way you saw me make the grommets for the bag. On each of these straps, we are going to end up with 4 grommet holes: a chrome grommet, a bronze grommet, a gold grommet, and finally a silver grommet. And I'm only showing myself making one of these straps, but each strap will have the exact same design. But when I fitted this strap onto me, I did find I hadn't solved the problem of the strap being too tight. So I took to my scissors, I cut the strap, and I sewed on a piece of elastic just like this. Then the uppermost strap I sewed on to the black glove, like you can see here. The strap in the middle is just going to be free flowing and it will slide onto my arm like this. And then the bottom strap I sewed on to the purple fabric. So it will all kind of lay on my arm just like this. Then for the other arm, we just have the black glove, the strap that goes around my wrist, which I didn't add an elastic for. I didn't find it was necessary. And that is what the other arm will look like. Now let's move on to the shirt.
So I did end up going to Goodwill just to peruse, and I found this shirt that I think could work. It was $5, so I bought it. I'm feeling the vision for it, but I'm not 100% sure yet how I'm going to implement it. So modifications that need to happen. I do need to crop this, so it'll be about here. This is a stretchy material, so it's not the easiest to work with, but it's thick and that's helpful. So yeah, that'll be cropped to about there. And then, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the back, but Jinx has more of an open back, so there's a tie right at the top of the shirt, and then like a thick band, and the rest of it I'm pretty sure is just open. That's at least what the other shirt was like. I like that silhouette. I'm gonna try to attempt that with this shirt. Here's my plan. So where this seam is on the shoulder, I'm gonna seam rip this trim here. I'm not gonna cut it. I'm specifically going to seam rip. I don't wanna cut it just in case. So yeah, we'll make sure that the stitch gets closed off here. I'll tie any loose thread so that the trim will stay at the top of the shirt. But I'm thinking if I release the trim from the back of the shirt, I can maybe add a little bit more fabric and just have a tie in the back here, which will allow me to cut out all this excess fabric. And I'm also gonna do the same thing with the trim around the outside. I'm gonna seam rip it from here all the way down to the seam in my armpit area. And then from there, I'm gonna reassess because I'm not 100% sure. I have an idea of what I want this shirt to look like. I'm gonna try to wait as long as possible to make any cuts. Gonna start with seam ripping, see where that goes. So I finished seam ripping the back of the shirt, across the back of the neck, and down the back of the arms. So far, the vision is coming to life exactly how I expected it to, so I'm excited for this next step that involves cutting, which is a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, the confidence level is high. So the first place I'm going to cut is right here on both sides. I want to end up with an open back here. We're gonna do something with this strap too. Not 100% sure. I know I still need to finish the hem, but I might also cut it and add some sort of tie just to give it a little bit more flexibility in how tight it is, because I might want it a bit tighter. But back to the exposed back portion, I'm gonna cut both of the straps there and then another cut somewhere along here. I'm gonna give it a lot of allowance just to be safe because I don't know exactly how much fabric I'm gonna need in the back. Once I cut it, I'm gonna pin it while it's on myself so I know it lays well. And the part that I'm the most nervous about, in addition to cutting right up here, we're also gonna cut the trim of the sleeve up here on both sides. And ideally, this trim can move down across the back of the shirt. I hope I'm explaining this well and it makes sense, but I'm very excited to get it done. So there's gonna be a little bit of cutting, a lot of hemming, good amount of reshaping. I've also already cut and started to hem the bottom of the shirt. I wanted to bring it up to make it more of a crop top. I also need to add a black belt to the bottom of that. But once all of that is finished, and we have the shape of the shirt, we can work on the very cool front, which I'm so excited to tackle for the second time. So let's get to cutting. I'm nervous.
After I cut these pieces on the back of the shirt, it took a little trial and error to figure out exactly how I wanted this shirt to look. So let's refer to this picture I drew. I ended up completely cutting the shirt up the middle, down the back. Then I took that trim from the sleeve and I pinned it along the top of the shirt, which is this piece here. Then where the trim ended, I added this black leather strap across the top. In the end, we're looking to have 3 buckles in the back of the shirt holding it together. Then along the bottom of the shirt, I added this black leather strap, which is actually going to continue all the way through the front of the shirt. And then on the top, I ended up completely cutting away that trim that I had seam ripped. It wasn't gonna work the way that I wanted to. Instead, I added another black leather strap, a 3rd buckle, and I added rivets the same way I added rivets to the arms with silver, gold, bronze, and chrome. So let me show you how I did it. Starting with the trim that I seam ripped around the arm, this is how I pinned it, and then I sewed it into place. I mentioned before that this fabric was very stretchy, which kind of makes it temperamental. So while I was sewing this seam down and attaching the trim to the back of the shirt, I went very slowly. I was constantly moving the fabric, making sure it was staying in the right place, because even pinning it wasn't really enough to keep this fabric where I wanted it to be, and I just had to keep checking and making sure I was sewing it properly. It wasn't easy, but I think it looks great in the end. And this is what that finished seam looks like on the front and there on the inside. Then I sewed on the black leather strap that is going to go along the bottom of the shirt. I made that strap the same way I made the straps for the armbands, the same way I made the straps for the suspenders on the belt. And you can see there the rivets that were added the same way they were added to the armbands. And I'll show you how that all looks in the end, but I think it's time to get to the main event, the front of this shirt. The curtain grommets came with this little stencil, so I stenciled on with some chalk where I thought I wanted the grommets to go. But first I tested them out on the shirt, made sure they were in the right spot. I actually wanted them a little bit closer together. I felt like on the original shirt they were too far apart, and I almost wanted them touching, if not completely touching. Then I cut out all 4 of those chalk circles, which was hard to do on camera, and snapped the grommets into place. Unlike the grommets I've showed you in the past, these grommets just click into place. You don't have to hammer them or anything like that. And they're extremely sturdy, especially with this material versus the other material of the first shirt. Very, very happy with how this turned out. Oh, and that chalk line down the center was just to make sure that the grommets were centered on the shirt. Now it's time to add the white elastic. I flipped the shirt over, so now we're looking at the inside of the shirt because that's where we're going to hand sew this elastic into place so that you can't see that sewed line from the outside. Then I repeated the same steps with this second piece of white elastic. I flipped the shirt right side out, and this shirt, if I do say so myself, is looking pretty professional. And just to give you a little sneak peek, this is what those straps in the back ended up looking like. And I finished this shirt off with two very, very thin pieces of fake leather to create these two little necklaces, just like Jinx's original costume has.
And that's it. The entire cosplay is made. The wig is ready to go, as you see. So it's time to get into the cosplay and show you the finished look. It's definitely really important for me to make cosplays that are con ready, and this cosplay is absolutely con ready. It even has a bag that matches the cosplay but can also hold my phone, wallet, and other personal items. I really hope you enjoyed this Jinx cosplay refresh. Check back soon for another video. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an upload. Comment down below any cosplays you want to see me make. Turn on notifications, and now join us on Patreon, where you can get even more content and join a community of like-minded geeks. Special thanks to my platinum tier patrons, Lars Baker, Yutaka Tamanaha, Brett Moraski, and Dale. I appreciate your continued support. My name is Leah, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.
있을 때 I swear 제가 먼저 zero 폭설한 그 children 꿈에도 I wasn't dumb 나만 빼고 넌 모두에게 참 친절해 배신감이 들어 단판이 돼도 머릿속을